Hey everybody, it's Carpo here, and I wanted to talk for a minute about what I'm going to call meaningless philosophy. And the epiphany came today when I was listening to a panel of four philosophers speaking about philosophy and skepticism, and the skeptical philosopher, which is basically the philosopher who doesn't allow himself to be sucked into any belief, which it shouldn't even necessarily be a phrase, because a philosopher should always be skeptical. But that word has been twisted to mean you don't believe anything. And often a philosopher who is a skeptic will do what they call, people will assume that they're catering to authority because they believe a particular thing. And really the reality is that the authority is right on a particular subject. So we get these people who say, well, maybe it's this way because it should be this way. And other people say, oh, you're just, asleep or not with the system. What I really wanted to talk about in the meaningless philosophy is what these four philosophers were talking about. Was the whole rational skeptical side of philosophy, and being aware and coherent and analyzing every situation the way it should be analyzed. Philosophy led to science. The idea of philosophy was the wondering about nature and the world around us, which led to scientific method, so we could try to understand it better. But while they were asking these people, they kept getting off subject from the question. And this one guy piped in towards the end, and he basically said, that to be honest, as a philosopher, philosophy major, teacher, professor, he said he'll walk into a room of philosophy or a philosophy lecture where people are, where there's a panel or people talking, and have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And he says that he's talked to others, and it turns out to be that way with all of them. And this led to the revelation, something I've always wondered, because often I'll turn on a particular philosophy lecture and people will start talking about, let's say, existentialism, and they'll get into a particular aspect of it and really delve into one particular analysis for hours that may have absolutely no bearing on life whatsoever. It's something, I guess, that it's universal, and what's happened is it's the epitome of what's happened to academic philosophy and academics in general. The academic world has turned into nuts and bolts type learning system. So with philosophy, rather than a person using philosophy to analyze life and their life, which is truly the purpose of philosophy, philosophy is loving wisdom, of course, but that's kind of a misnomer in the sense that it's not just loving to know things. It's loving to understand more about the world so you can apply it to your life and to other lives to make the world a better place to live. That's what philosophy originally was supposed to be. The idea that we can't seem to come to terms and agree on any religious grounds, we can't seem to agree on any political grounds, so maybe we can at least find philosophies that we do agree with. Now, in the side of skepticism, there are different forms of skepticism. There's moral skepticism, which is being skeptical of the moral authority or grounds of natural law, some may say, or skeptical that really we should or shouldn't do any particular things because they're good or bad. Often moral skepticism has led to philosophies like Crowley, where love and lust and sex, and that's all that matters. Often it's used as an excuse to abandon one's principles, and these principles are embedded in us. They're values and parts of our integrity that we can't break. All of us know our limits, and we know when we're doing something that's not right, no matter how much we justify it through beliefs. Besides moral skepticism, there's scientific skepticism. And these people are skeptical of everything scientific. They don't want to believe anything that's proven. Often these are religious people, not necessarily philosophers, who will deny anything that comes out as being either evil, incorrect, or something of the sort, so they don't have to believe it because it may challenge their current paradigm. but the one thing that I see, and this is something that one of the people on that panel pointed out that I've never really mentioned before, was the abuse of skepticism. And this runs rampant in YouTube land as well as anywhere, but you see it constantly. People who use rational skepticism to find a way to abandon believing anything, a way to basically run everybody's beliefs into the ground, using rational discussion and rational ideas to pummel ideas which are otherwise unprovable. And these ideas are usually the existential type, spiritual beliefs, religions, theories about various quantum states and things that we can't quite see or prove or understand. Dimensions, multiple dimensions, which can be proven mathematically but cannot be observed readily. Not yet. But then again, radiation was not observed yet until we had the instruments. So often rational skepticism, what a person may think is rational skepticism, is merely impeding progress because people are afraid to try new things. And this is what's happened to science. Academic science has ruined their own work in a lot of areas by being afraid to explore new things. And it's cost decades of, holding back research. And we'll always hear about that one guy who finally got the credit he deserved after he invented came up with a theory, say, in the 60s or 70s, and finally in 2014 somebody says, okay, we'll try it out. Just like the theories about plant consciousness. People were ridiculed in the 70s for providing such ideas, but they ended up being absolutely correct. Consciousness in the sense that, I should say, plant awareness, that they can feed their young and that they know and can sense each other's presence. Such a simple idea, but ridiculed. Now in philosophy we have, these aren't scientific ideas. These are thoughts. And if I could leave on one particular note, it would be that the root of philosophy is simplicity. And this is why I mention the people who go too far and get into these little philosophical debates about one aspect of free will, and or it may even be philosophers who sit and debate the meaning of a sentence that another philosopher uttered 1,000 years ago. This is not philosophy. Philosophy is not studying the history of philosophy. It's understanding the history in order to provide a new outlook or a better outlook for the future. We live in different times. We need different philosophies. Some of these archetypes tend to endure. But overall, once we understand that, it's all about simplicity. Keeping it simple. Philosophy is supposed to be simple, and everyone's supposed to be able to join in the conversation. In other words, if you and another person are holding a philosophical debate and there's 20 people in the room and nobody understands what you're talking about, it's probably not philosophy. It's probably research of some sort into a philosophy. Philosophy is supposed to be spontaneous, it's supposed to be inspiring, it's supposed to make you think, and it's supposed to make you think based on the thoughts that you're exchanging, not old ideas that you're rummaging through. That's my take on philosophy. And I know a lot of people, I understand that studying ancient history of philosophy is important. Then we can understand the standpoints, the viewpoints that the ancients had up to this date, so we can know where to start. In other words, not repeating what others have done. That's why studying history is important. But the philosophy itself needs to be fresh, constantly, not regurgitated. And I have a book called Enduring Issues in Philosophy, and it's a phenomenal book. It probably has like 20 or 30 enduring issues that have to do with if God exists, then this, or if God doesn't exist, then this. And all kinds of different questions, the ones that have endured for thousands of years. And those are the ones that are worth discussing. Those are the issues that are worth pondering, not a particular meaning of a Socratic dialogue, or understanding, you know, being, I guess, making assumptions about what people meant in the past, rather than finding out what's our philosophy for today. What can we do with it? And so meaningless philosophy is no better than useless knowledge or useless information. And there are a lot of people out there on the internet providing all this great information about how if you add this and this together and these numbers here and do this and this, then it means that this and this and this. But what can you do with a lot of this? Nothing. There's nothing you can apply it to in daily life. And so reaching out, seizing every idea and shaking it, saying, what comes out? What is this? What are we going to do with this? Because it's great to just ponder interesting ideas and to try to sound smart, but that's not what it's about. It's not about trying to come up with ideas that make people go, oh, hi, you're so smart, or you must have known, you must be so well read, or you're so educated. Philosophy should be for the ignorant as well as the wise. It's something as simple as asking, why are we here? That's not a roll your eyes type question, but most philosophers will roll their eyes as if they're past that. You haven't answered it yet. Not one philosopher has answered why are we here. So those are my viewpoints on philosophy and meaningless philosophy, and I'd like to see raw philosophy come back into the mainstream, dealing with the issues, the real raw issues, because it's almost as if science, religion, and philosophy have all abandoned things we can't answer, such as the big questions. Why are we here? Where are we going? Either we've decided we know, we've decided we'll never know, and the more viewpoints we get on these issues, the closer we get towards getting really a better view of the way the people think, not just the way that we think people think, because our views are all skewed. And so we are what we are, and we do have useless philosophies, and some of them do appeal to the mass, but you got to remember that majority rules often in a lot of situations. Unfortunately, the only barrier between majority rule being correct is the ignorance that comes with not being educated on a subject, which is why we love philosophy. Namaste.